Hey, team, welcome back to another great episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. We've got a great one in store for you here today, guys. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and I'm joined by Mr. Jared Flinn, co-founder and operating partner of BulkLoads. I'm excited about this, Jared, because we're very row crop focused in the type of guests that we have coming on here, and biological companies and opinions. We've had some sorghum guys, but we haven't had anybody that's both in like the trucking transportation side, also software. So I'm excited to dive into the conversation. Welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks. I think those row crop guys that there's trucking involved, and I imagine a lot of those guys, a lot of their loads or grain probably hits our platform at some shape or form.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that because I think we're a lot of my clients are always focused on right now getting crop in the ground, then getting it to grow, right, and focusing on yield. We don't always thinking about how to, as you were talking about, like how do we get that red wheat from Western Kansas to the flour mill in Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah.
So it'll be a cool conversation. Jared, you get the same opening question everybody gets. What does it mean for you to be intentional?
I think for me to be intentional means to honestly show up every day and love Jesus and been a faith follower for half of my life. And I think for being intentional, it's just making sure and showing up every day, facing those giants that we all have. And I know there's a lot of days, and these listeners on your podcast, I mean, sometimes it's just those fears that keep creeping in. But for me, it's a constant journey to keep facing those out there, because hopefully the impact that we can have, you and I are both at another stage in our careers. But I think for me today, intentional is having influence as well out there and impacting our industry, the agriculture industry, for the good.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. And we're Jesus follower friendly on this podcast. So we appreciate that.
Awesome.
We're about 11 days from Easter as we sit here and record this, I think, in 2025. And, I can't think of a much better design of an intentional leadership model.
100%. Right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, man. I mean, this when I sit back and think about it, I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years since I started this journey of studying intentional leadership, and then later on creating the podcast. I've come up with my own definitions, and that's evolved a little bit. But I go back and read. Like I was just reading through the book of Acts this morning while I was sitting in the sauna, kind of getting ready for my day. And these guys were intentional, man. I mean, think about like you're hitting the road as a salesman. Paul and Barnabas, that's who I was reading about this morning. They're hitting the road as salesmen, traveling around the Mediterranean, just bringing the good news, right? And some people are delighted to hear it, but a lot of people don't want to hear it, right?
Yeah.
Are you willing to get stoned, right, for promoting your product, for promoting your guy? And that there's a whole different level of intention, right, behind the leadership that creates followers like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I think of that just broadly, and I'm glad you brought that up. And again, I'm no theologian. I read the Bible every day. It's part of my morning routine. And by the way, I have a sauna as well that I sit in. And, but for me, it's, if you're not being challenged, if you're not really, metaphorically thinking, having stones thrown, like, are you really following Jesus and following the path that he's got for you? And I think, it's, some people want to separate business and faith and all that, and we're not going to have that specific discussion today. But I think if you're not being challenged out there, if you don't have those naysayers, maybe you're not really challenging yourself or pushing yourself that hard. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Again, I hate it when adversity comes, but man, afterwards, I just see it as another growth or stepping stone that I'm thankful that it happened.
Well, yeah, you bring up a really good point. I think a lot of people and probably leaders just get stuck or maybe challenged as leaders trying to help their teams expand, because maybe that employee that works on your team's not really feeling like being pushed today, right? Not feeling like growing today.
Yeah.
but I'm often reminded, I think I heard it first from Gary Brecka, who's big in like the health space these days on Twitter and or X and social media, Instagram, whatever. Big leader in that space. I think he was the first one I heard this from, so I don't know where this quote comes from, but he said, comfort is the aggressive pursuit of aging. Right?
That's good.
Comfort is the aggressive pursuit of aging. What does that mean? Well, it means like if I don't want to age quickly and have kind of a fizzle towards the tail end, I'm looking for more of a pop in the back half of my career and the back half of my life, right? What's that mean? It means, I need to make my body do things that it doesn't want to do. I need to make myself do things that maybe I don't want to do sometimes in pursuit of having a greater, or a more intentional level of leadership, in the back half of my career. So what are those challenges? What are those things? And often, this is the big challenge I know a lot of our clients run into is like sometimes the people they send to our Thriving Leader event as an example, like they're not ready. They're not excited to be there because they don't want to grow, right? Growth means now I have to do things I don't want to do. It's uncomfortable. It's hard.
I was just telling my wife this morning, and again, so I turned 45 this year, and it's been a little bit of a struggle. And I say struggle, we work out together. So we usually leave at 5 a.m, go to the gym, and it's got a group fitness type environment. But I told her, I think I'm really struggling because I'm realizing that I have to be a little bit careful, like where I could, whatever movement that was, squat this, deadlift that. But I'm like, man, now my shoulders just isn't working or holding up as is. And I've been doing therapy and working on some stuff, but there's just, I told her, honestly, I don't call it pride or whatever, but like I'm struggling where like I have to keep pushing harder now, or it's that much harder, just to keep the same fitness level. And I know, like I said, it's just, none of us are eternal, we're all going to die someday. And, that path. And I'm seeing it now in my life. It's like, my health journey, I want to keep it going, but it's just, I don't see it increase. I don't see my deadlift increasing or my bench press, but maintaining. And I just think it's a struggle, and just having that realization, I guess, in life, is a little bit hard because I don't want that. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and as we evolve and go to different seasons of life, I think you've got to be intentional enough. I know we have to be intentional enough to know and see where we're at. Right. And so what does that next level, fitness goal, if we're, since we're talking about that, what does that look like, going into the next in the 45 to 55 realm, which is different than where we were at in the 35 to 45 timeframe. The body could do different things. I used to do Muay Thai, and I only don't do it because when we moved to North Carolina, there's no Muay Thai gyms near where I live. I got to get up and go at least a half an hour, which is, for my schedule, just doesn't work. I got to get it a little bit closer. We live kind of in the country, and so I just do a lot of at-home workouts. There's a little CrossFit gym close by if I want to go there. But I was doing Muay Thai, and I actually ended up doing a Muay Thai tournament in Des Moines. I think it was 2018, right? I was 37 at the time.
Oh, wow.
Now I'm already like 15 years older. At that age, I was 15 years older than the guys I was fighting. Right. So now you add on another 6 or 7 years since that time frame, right? And you're like, you just can't take the headshots like you could. Right.
Yeah.
I think, I want to tie this back to intentional leadership, where as we advance in our career, you start finding, my dad used to put this really well. It's like, find ways to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And I think that's wisdom, Jared. I think that's supposed to be wisdom, right? We could find wiser ways to get similar results, right? Without having to, throw 50, 65-pound kettlebells over our head.
Yeah. Well, I even think of it too. Yeah. Just like making sure you keep mentally preparing yourself to be sharp, because again, we know the body's going to wear out, but how do we keep our mind sharp, our mental capacity? I think that's one thing. And, a lot of us physically train because it helps us mentally. That's what it really boils down to. It's like, if I can physically do this, if I can physically run this or climb this or whatever it is, like I can handle that next big challenge in my life, whether it is a serious illness, a death in the family. And I think that's where you always have to keep challenging yourself, because when that moment comes, which it will come for all of us, those disaster, catastrophic, traumatic events, how do you prepare yourself? So that's the way I look at it.
Big time. Yeah, we're always in the main components of our Thriving Leader program are the three, what we call the three big buckets of leading indicators, or leading indicators versus lagging indicators. Most people come into a leadership program reacting to lagging indicators. The sales results aren't where they want them to be, or the business results aren't there, or whatever. Which is the wrong focus from an intentional leadership perspective. You got to focus on the leading indicators. What are the things I can do today that influence the outcome?
Yeah.
Right. And so the three buckets are clarity, certainty, and capacity. And what you just referenced there is capacity. Like, you can know what you want, you can be damn certain of it. You can even have 20 years of experience under your belt trying to go get it. But if you don't have the capacity to be able to get up and go execute, it's almost impossible to be intentional. You can fake it for a minute, but the burnout's coming up quick.
Yeah. 100%.
So, yeah, man. Tell us about BulkLoads. Tell us about you. Let us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So for the listeners that don't know who I am, I got my start really 20 years ago in the grain industry. Graduated from the University of Missouri, but went to go work for a top 10 grain trading company, Bartlett Grain, privately owned company. That at that time, their office was right there at the Kansas City Board of Trade building. So we were top 2 floors of that, and then they moved behind there. But I got really ingrained just learning the grain trading business. But more importantly, when you talk about grain trading, it's transportation. Mm-hmm. And I remember my second week on the job, it was we were in a conference and the leadership was in there, vice president, president. And after the meeting, the vice president came up, and I hadn't met him yet. His name was Jack Moran. And he comes up and introduced himself. He's like, Jared, I just want you to remember one thing. And I was like, yeah. What is it, Jack? And he's like, just remember, we're a transportation company that moves grain. And I was like, I thought we were a grain trading company. I didn't know, and he's like, we're a transportation company that moves grain. But it really just set the foundation to understand how critical transportation was in all modes. And I was on the trucking side, and I just fell in love with it. I saw that it was something that wasn't being focused on, but the vice president of the company was saying it was one of the most important parts of the business, and really just kind of engulfed myself and learned. And I think that's where, when I look at leadership, I just want to relate back to you have to almost have like a fascination of the work that you're doing, or just some kind of addiction to understand how does this really work? How can I figure out everything that's going on in trucking, how this relates to the business itself, and really how it impacts the bottom line? Because that's the big thing I knew, hey, if I can impact the bottom line, it's going to help the company, and I'm going to be rewarded. And fast forward, they put me in charge of, I was just in charge of just the wheat group when I first started there. But within 6 months, they put me in charge of all trucking across the company. So I was in charge of corn, soybeans, milo, feed ingredients, fertilizer, country elevators, and absolutely loved it. And we kind of centralized that division. So that's what sparked really my interest in trucking. But I just kept, I'm one of those, I think I've once heard it's like the dopamine hit, but just wired, like, how do I keep making this better? How do I keep having an impact in the industry? And in 2008, 3 years into that, a lot of people forget that the little device called the iPhone came out. And that's where we really just start seeing hey, how can this really start changing the way we handle the trucking side of the business? I say handle, like coordinating loads, because back in the day, it was any given day I was making 150, inbound, outbound calls, booking trucks, giving them load numbers. And we slowly started figuring out a way that we could digitize that. So that's where BulkLoads started. 2011, myself and my business partner, Matt Ferdine, we co-founded BulkLoads to really be a digital marketplace where we're connecting those grain shipping companies like the Andersons, like the Bartletts, ADMs, Cargills, and even the co-ops with those trucking companies, and creating just a seamless way that you can do that digitally.
Cool. Man, that's awesome. It's a great backstory, by the way, also, because we've coached so many people that were in roles similar to the one that you started out in. and we get it. I want to come back to one piece there to what your what your vice president kind of triggered, right? Which is being very clear, right? We talk about clarity, like, hey, we're a trucking company that moves grain,
Yeah.
right? We're a transportation company that moves grain. And we think it's about like we're a money making company or we're a company that trades grain to make money. All those things are also true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But maybe not as true as the most clear thing, which is we have to, somebody's growing the grain, but that sits in a bin. And then we got to get that bin from there to the wherever it gets bought. And then we got to get from there to the wherever it gets shipped or made into something.
Well, at that time, I mean, case in point, the president of the company that they had hired came from the railroads. I mean, we had a transportation executive at the helm of the business. So I quickly learned like these guys are serious about like the transportation. But equally, he saw value in me. And that was another thing that really helped my success or the success of the company. He saw that trucking, it's transportation, just like rail and barge and everything else. And let's pour the resources in to make it, better than all others out there.
For sure. Love it. That's awesome. You also mentioned something about the, I don't know if this is the word you used, but the note that I wrote down is what is the obsession, right? And you're talking about like figuring out like everything that goes into the trucking, like learning that. And I don't think enough people really take time to sit back and think like, what is my obsession? What is it that I obsess over about the thing that I do for a living?
Well, yeah. And I want to give just advice again. I talk about it. Hopefully I'm in a season of influence and maybe what I don't see as much today with the young leaders coming up and what I did. But yeah, I just had a fascination. So number one, like I fascinated over the competition that was in the marketplace. At that time, there was a company called the Bruce Grain. They were just truck freight, experts. Yeah. And I could just remember like they'd be trading positions all the time, but really trying to figure out, man, how are these guys doing this successful? They're in Kansas City, another group, Lansing, Schooler. These guys just ran these big successful groups. So like, I almost like, would just like study those companies. And I say study those companies, like calling those, actually going and physically visiting them. And I give advice today all the time. It's like, hey, if you want to learn something, just go visit your competitor. Maybe they don't let you in the door, but 9 times out of 10, they'll let you in the door. Why be afraid to go visit and knock on the doors of a competitor? The other thing too, is just really having a fascination of like, as a leader, like how do you get better in your position? I gave a speech just not long ago. For me, when I first started working, I had this fascination, but I was a terrible communicator. I was actually, when I was talking about that fishbowl, we had these conference meetings where we all get together. After a while, the president of the company said, "Hey, Jared, I want you to start giving a 2-minute spiel on what truck freight's doing." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." Well, I would just dread that every time that I had to go in that meeting. And I was just like, I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what I was going to say. I was going to choke up and just to dread it. But I knew that it was just something, it was another giant that I had overcome. Yep. So I started taking speech classes, Toastmasters, and started learning just to be a better speaker. But I just knew that in my heart, it was like, first off, I had to conquer this, but I had to be a better communicator. And if I ever want to be in a leadership or an executive position down the road, like I have to be, an expert or phenomenal communicator. I have to figure out how to speak in front of people, how to not use and all your filler words and just deliver a very good message. It's again, a lot of times it's not so much what you know, but it's how you can deliver that message is what really matters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. But just being able to know like, hey, this is my next Goliath, right?
Yeah.
What is it that you're obsessing over? What's in the way? And then like, let's mark it with an X and go get it. And I think that's the mentality where I know a lot of the employers is just doing a discovery call with one guy yesterday from a co-op in Indiana. And like, he said 60% of my sales force out of the 31 people are Gen Z. So he's out here trying to train 20 somethings, 26 and under, 27 and under young people, to help maintain their business, to go have these hard conversations with growers.
Yeah.
And beating his head against the wall trying to do it because he comes from a very, very different generation where or he's more like you and me, like, all right, what's the Goliath? Awesome. Let's go get some stones.
Yeah.
give me my sling. And it is a bit of a different conversation. I think this was on the Sean Ryan show. I haven't listened to this full episode, but he had somebody on talking about homeschool. A really interesting episode lately for those of you that listen to the Sean Ryan show.
Yeah.
And so the in the clip that the guy's talking about is, the difference between about curiosity, right? So it's like if we go to public school, and all my kids currently go to public school, but I'm thinking about pulling my 9-year-old out. He's my youngest one. He's the one I still got a chance with. Joking a little bit. They're all good, but it's like, he's when I look at where the future is going, okay, and how quickly with AI and technology and like how we're going to be teaching kids going forward, like it's happening really quickly. So in 2030, he's in eighth grade, still got 4 years of school left. Like, I don't know if you're on the same train as I am, Jared, or watching things the way I'm watching it, but the world is going to be very different in 5 years.
Yeah.
And even more different in 10 years, which is when he's set to graduate school. I don't want him prepared for whatever right now. I don't want him prepared for what I'm seeing in the public school system.
Yeah. Well, so God bless my wife. We, when we were looking at systems, my wife, she's the one that pioneered it, but we homeschooled all 3 of our kids.
Yeah.
So my daughter, she's a sophomore now. We got her to sophomore, and now she's in public school.
Yep.
And we pray that we set that foundation. But my 2 boys still homeschool at home. And again, I was public school, nothing but like I've learned a clear difference in my 12-year-old specifically, like just has a curiosity about everything about, a lot of times I'll come home and he's like, well, how was work? What did you do? And I'm like, he's asking me these questions and I got to kind of think about it. And how did you handle this situation? And how's this, but then he's always has questions about that. And I love that curiosity. And, but even my 10-year-old, like you can just tell, like, there's not, I don't know. I don't want to go too far down about school, but like there's a thirst to want to learn more. And it's not just, I have to do this to get to the next level.
Yeah. So to bring it back to my point, right? Why I brought up the show is that what this homeschooling expert was talking about was the difference between, high school and homeschool is like when you're in a public school setting, if you're curious, right, you go ask your teacher, right? Or the curiosity is driven because they give you questions. But like in homeschool, if you're curious about something, like you go find somebody in your community who knows the answer and you ask them.
That's true. Yeah.
And that really smacked me across the face. Cause I was in homeschool, but that's what we did. Like when my dad was a very curious, very entrepreneurial guy. We had a wholesale fishing bait company. We raised shiitake mushrooms for quite some time, like in bulk loads of like 1,500 pounds of mushrooms every week, for a long time. When he was curious about something, he went and found people that knew things and he would learn it, and we're not getting that enough with this next generation. And even a lot of people in our generation are very lazy learners too. So I know we are not, very pure. I don't even think in your Gen X millennial group as at the same time. So anyway, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'd like to see more of from an intentional perspective. Can we create workspaces? Can we as leaders inspire the desire within our people to want to learn and grow?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I'd love to add, so the nice, when I was at Bartlett, I did some research, and when I met my wife, I'd kind of told her, like, one day I'd love to get my MBA and pursue that. But from a school standpoint, I was average or above average. I wasn't exceptional by any means. But we get married, and she's like, hey, before we start having kids, you probably should get your MBA or look into it. I'm like, well, and she's like, no, you're going to do that. Well, fortunately, Bartlett, they had a tuition reimbursement program. Nice. Yeah. And started doing night classes, but it was, for 2 years when I worked at Bartlett, I acquired my MBA, and I encourage it. And maybe it's just me. I try to really push it out there, but I just don't see people. And I'm not saying maybe it's specifically MBA, but like take advantage of the resources that are out there to give you a competitive edge. So many people like that I see, they're growing in the workspace and leadership, but man, they're not taking all those opportunities to either further their education, any kind of programs, conferences, being involved in different groups and all that. I'm not saying all of them, but like, man, those are just ways, again, it's just another stepping stone,
Yeah.
hopefully to get you to that next level, to be that leader in the organization.
Yeah, and in today's day and age, man, there's just no reason whether you do MBA or just go self-learn or be self-taught.
Yeah.
I mean, all this information is basically free on YouTube, right? You just got to go put it together for yourself. You know what I'm saying? But I encourage. I did the same thing after I was out of university for 5 years. We did have kids, but I went and started doing online through Colorado State, and
Oh,
got
nice.
my master's in organizational leadership with a focus on change management. And this is a thing that I obsess over. I was very average, 2.8 GPA coming out of the University of Minnesota, right? But I aced my master's degree, right? 4.0 coming out of maybe a 3.9 something, but it was high, right? Coming out of that. Why? Because I was obsessing over if let's say it this way: if a company comes to me and says, "Hey, we need sales training for our people," right? That's great. I love that's a good lead. We'll call them up. We'll do a full discovery. What I'm looking for in the discovery call is not whether or not they need sales training. They probably do. Almost everybody does. That's a given. My question is why? That's what I obsess over. What's causing a lack of people in that environment not seeking the information themselves to want to improve themselves to be great at selling?
That's good.
What's
Yeah.
lacking? There's something lacking. And then if we do training, how are we going to follow that up? Right? How are we going to reinforce it? And we do that for companies, but we can only do that for so long. Like somebody's going to have to keep that living when we're done, right? We're third party. We're going to step out eventually. And we've been with some of our customers for 8 years. So either they're not getting it or we're not very good. One of the two. But they keep investing in their people year over year. But some people maybe we're only there for a year, maybe we're only there for 3 years. Somebody's going to have to reinforce what's being learned. Most of the training dollars in this industry go to waste because they send people to sales training thinking like, okay, they're going to come back better salespeople. And they might for a season, but we always assimilate back to the environment. So if somebody's
Yeah.
telling me they need sales training, it's not just about that. My question is what's going on in the environment?
Well, yeah, I also think too, and when you come to sales training, because again, sales, I can't think of the word, but like, I mean, it's a very self-motivated, like it's not a process. You're not running something, an operation. It's like you're out there creating, pushing. So a lot of it's on your shoulders, but that employee or person that you want training to, it's like, they have to want it. I mean, they have to want out and go get it. It's just like, hey, we're gonna get this guy in here and the sales trainer or whatever, do this course. But if there's no interest on the other side, I mean,
Right.
it's just you're wasting your time.
True. Very, very true. So talk to me a little, like, what does learning look like for you now? I mean, you're obviously through that phase of life, but now what books, podcasts, like what should people be tuning into that you're benefiting from right now, Jared?
Dude, I'm telling you, Audible has been the best creation ever when it comes to, because I'm a pretty fast pace, like to move. Man, if I ever sit down, especially in the evenings, I'm done for the day. And I haven't been clinically diagnosed, but I've had people tell me that I'm probably borderline or ADHD. I think everybody uses that today, so it's been used pretty common. But I do have a hard time focusing and reading. So I try to plow through Audible books all the time. I have some pretty good coaches that I surround myself with, that they're constantly giving me feedback. A lot of times if I'm just listening, like yesterday, I'm trying to think who I was on a call with, but they mentioned some book that they're reading. And a lot of times I'll go right to my phone, put it on my wish list. But that's how I really plow through and get content. And I probably go back and forth. I try to my game plan is I usually I do a business book, and then I do more of a faith or biblical book, and then I go back to business, faith, business. Somebody told me how to try like what was it, not horror, but like some crime and fiction. I'm like, I don't know if I'd ever get into I don't think I would ever get into some kind of thriller type book. But I know a lot of people. But that's really my learning regimen. I try to put a lot of hours just on Audible. So anytime, that's the thing too, we forget, again, we all want to have fun out there, but like, man, there's a lot of time you can be sharpening yourself. Like when you're driving 15, 30 minutes home, yeah, you could be on the, be listening to music, or you can be listening to an audible book. I spend a lot of time, we live on a farm, and I mow almost 6 acres. We have a pretty big yard, but man, that's my time to really plow through and digest that stuff. There's a couple key podcasts I listen to. More faith-based leadership type styles. I mean, the guys that I really admire and look up to, obviously I'm a fan of like Andy Stanley, Craig Rochelle, John Maxwell. Those are just guys that I just see, man, I look and like, hey, how can I, I'm in the business realm. How can I have a positive impact like those guys are doing?
Yeah, love it. Those are great recommendations. What's the best book you've listened to in the last year?
Ooh, man, I have to say most recent one really was 2 books ago, but Jesse Cole, Fans First. I absolutely love, and we've really embedded into our culture of tried to, but really having a servant's heart to our clients. When I way back in the beginning working at Bartlett, one thing I realized was a lot of these truckers that we dealt with that time, there was a negative connotation. Like people didn't, first off, they didn't like dealing with them. They always complained about truckers, whether it was not missing a load or complaining, And I quickly learned that, man, first off, these are human beings just like us. God created people. But man, if you can almost serve these guys better, I mean, you'll be served better back, whether it's better service, better truck rates, just lines of service. So it kind of really summed that. Jesse Cole's book, I Fans First, but like they just talk about really looking at that, when you're dealing with a client or customer, that whole journey from start to finish, how do you, really cater to them and really put them first, thinking of them through the whole process. So, and just some examples that we do here. And it's almost, people know us by our swag. But man, we started early on, and it was just one year I just said, hey, everybody that comes in the door, that we sign up on BulkLoads, we're going to send them a hat and a t-shirt free of charge, so $15 hat, $10 shirt, plus $5 in shipping, everyone. And again, my business partner, I can remember in the very beginning, he's like, man, that's a lot of money that we're, after a couple of months, he's like, we're spending like $3,000 a month just then. I was like, I don't care. We're going to send it out there. Well, dude, it's slowly people start learning. I mean, that like, hey, they enjoyed it. Well, somebody gets a gift, especially if it's unexpected, man, you talk about just winning them over. And again, it wasn't about like, we want to just show that we love them. We love them being a customer, but you talk about retention, a lot of times if your customer is wearing your hat, I mean, hopefully they're not bad mouthing you. Maybe they will, but like, it's hard to be wearing somebody's logo or jersey and then, talking negative about them. So that, I mean, that's just one example of many that we really start doing. And still today, like everybody that we sign up, man, we love gifting hats and shirts out. Man, last year we probably spent over $100,000 just in merchandise, but man, we see that as how we, we're honoring our clients. Selfishly, like they're walking around billboards for our brand. So there's a lot of even psychology around it, but that's just one example of many that we do to really try to think of our customers first and foremost.
So good. I love it. I went and put that on the wish list right away.
It will get you excited beyond all means. I mean, and some of the stuff that Jesse Cole talked that they incorporated, and it's stuff that he learned from other businesses too. He didn't create it all, but it was just, it's mind blowing how much they thought of this. One of the best quotes that he said in there, and this is one that's just, it keeps marinating in my heart, but like, don't be afraid to experiment. There's so many people out there, like, and again, you're not going to hit a home run every time and something's going to flop, but man, keep thinking of those ideas and keep trying those. And maybe there's 5 ideas that you implement and only 2 of them work and the other ones were, flop. That wasn't wasted dollars, wasting your time. I mean, it was an experiment to lead to what worked. So it stuck to me. It's like, man, we can't be afraid to take risk and experiment because some of these could be the next best idea or next best thing.
Yeah, 100%. So good, man. I mean, we really do got to experiment. I love that. I love the concept of Fans First. It reminds me a little bit. My favorite book from last year was by Will Guidara. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Read that one too. Yep.
That book changed me.
Yep.
right? Like it's not a faith-based book or anything like that, but like that book changed me, and
So
how I look
his
at excellence in our business.
so his mentor, Danny Myers, wrote
Yep.
Setting the Table. I don't know if you've read that one, but it's just as good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never
So highly
read the
recommend
book.
Setting the Table
I
as
saw
well.
Danny speak one time and that was really good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good. I recommend all these books, guys, to everybody anybody that's listening. Put books in your life, whether you're audiobooks or sitting down. Like I'll have an audiobook going and I've got a paperback. Like I got my 10 pages a day, that
Yeah.
I'm sitting plus my Bible reading every day. And it makes a difference. Like I need that time. I get so wound up during the day, making sales calls and doing all the things, doing coaching calls and making these podcasts, et cetera, that like, I need that time for my brain, or my brain more so needs that time to just relax a little
Yeah.
bit, and putting it on some pages for me, like that helps. But I'm like you, I get going. My wife last night is like, what is wrong with you? I'm just like, I made like 1,000,000 calls today. And so we're in the middle of like a big push right now, big promotion. A lot of the sales still falls on me. So, we got this, it's a launch, right? It's 2 weeks, but it sells out our next event. Right.
Oh,
And
nice.
so it's like when I get this done, then I can actually not worry about putting butts in seats at the at the August 19th and 20th event in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So you guys know how to reach out, mark at themomentumcompany.com. It's about that, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
So, but I get to the end, it's like, man, like I gotta have some way to kind of like taper it down, right? Just to kind of bring it in for a landing at the end of the day. Those end of the day rituals are pretty important.
Yeah. So as we're recording this, but so next week we will host our 3rd annual bulk freight conference. We started 3 years ago, an industry conference. There's other trucking conferences, but it's one specifically for bulk. And we have, I think, 600 and something registered and coming. And I'm not nervous yet, but I told this, a lot of people are like, man, aren't you, after those events, aren't you just exhausted? And I go the exact opposite. Usually I'm more energized. I think those things I'm a people person. So the more I interact with people, the more I get energized and less exhausted. So I see those are times that my tank gets full versus depleted.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same. I love being able to work a room. Like the more I do it all day long, and it's like when it's over, that's when I crash.
Yeah.
Right? But as long as it's going on, like I can go literally all day long and I love it. So much fun.
Yep.
So much fun. Dude, this has been fun. Learned a lot. We had some good conversation in here today. Appreciate it. How do we go find out more about BulkLoads?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, I love LinkedIn's probably my number one platform I interact on. Love connecting with people on there, and I post a lot of our content. We were sharing before this. We've really gone out. We have our own podcast, the BulkLoads podcast, but we still have that, but we've even morphed to our BulkLoads YouTube channel, which encourage your viewers to check out. We've been doing just some phenomenal videos, going out and filming trucking companies, shipping companies, cattle companies, anything in agriculture that we're tailing, typically customers of ours. And some of these stories just so rich and good. So yeah, number one, look me up on LinkedIn, Jared Flinn on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you on there. But yeah, definitely check out our YouTube channel. If you are in the ag bulk shipping community, if you're shipping grain, fertilizer, feed, any kind of ag commodities, we would love to help and serve you. We have a load board where we can connect shipping companies with thousands of trucking companies. Just go to bulkloads.com to get started. And man, we would love to serve more people in that capacity.
Awesome. Good stuff, guys. All right. Check it out. BulkLoads. Head over to LinkedIn. Look up Jared Flinn. Lots of great content on there. It's been coming through my feed a little bit lately. So good job. And thanks for what you're doing out there. Keeping things moving.
Mark, thank you so much. God bless you.
You bet.